85% of people say money-related stress affects their lives. Yet money is necessary to live the lives we want. How we act with money is hardwired, yet it can be changed. But making that change can feel like staring up an unclimbable mountain. Today's guest shares his framework on how to take action more easily and create the change you want to see. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Escape the Clock. I'm your host, the author of the book, and I'm here to help you with your strategies for long-term financial freedom. Today, we're exploring a hidden driver that quietly shapes our financial lives, what my guest calls the financial thermostat. While we most often think about money problems coming from not earning enough in our lives, the truth is a lot more complicated. Your income can double, but if your internal setting hasn't changed, you'll still feel broke. On the other side, even the most disciplined savers can build security and yet still feel like they don't have enough. Research shows that 85% of people say money-related stress affects their lives. That stress isn't just about the size of the paycheck. It's about the unconscious beliefs and habits that determine what we feel comfortable with. This thermostat is set early, shaped by family, culture, and life experiences. And unless we reset it, we keep replaying the same script. Overspending, over-restricting, or never giving ourselves permission to truly enjoy what we've built. And that's why nearly 60% of US adults live paycheck to paycheck. And while even the best savers, financial anxiety will always remain as a top source of stress. My guest today, Pericles Rellas, has spent over 25 years helping people uncover and reset their financial thermostats. His framework shows us how to shift limiting beliefs, stop sabotaging ourselves, and finally allow money to flow in a way that supports the life we actually want to live. Pericles, welcome to the podcast.
Dan, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Awesome. And before we dive into the financial thermostat, which I'm really excited to talk to you about, I think this is fantastic. We've been talking about mindsets and how we really have to understand ourselves to do the best when it comes to working towards our goals. But I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you got into this work and why it became so important to you.
Sure. There was a time in my life when I wanted to be a coach and really started in that space and wanted to work with business owners, individuals who wanted to make more money, wanted to be more successful. So I started bringing on some clients, and in the first 3 to 4 months of working with them, they were all experiencing an uptick, and in some cases a substantial uptick in the amount of money they were making. And then I noticed the second thing, which was really interesting, was that regardless of how much more they were making, they were in the same situation they were before I started working with them. So if you kind of spoke about this in the opening, is if they were stressed about money before they were making more money, they were still stressed about money, even though they were making more money. And that didn't make any sense to me. If they were always just behind, they were still just behind. If they were always just catching up, they were still catching up. And so I stopped and I said, there's got to be something here, because this isn't just an outlier. This is every single client. So I spent the next, I would say, year really exploring this and then diving into it with my clients and letting them know what I was doing, because I could see this pattern. And then over the next year and a half to 2 years, I discovered two things. One is what you spoke about, our financial thermostat. It literally regulates, just like a thermostat in our room, how much money we can make, how much we can keep, and how much, or what our emotional stresses are, what our emotional relationship, thoughts, feelings, and emotions around money are. And I started implementing specific distinctions to get them to reset that financial thermostat. And the results were extraordinary. They started sharing with their friends, and suddenly all these people wanted to work with me. And I realized in that moment, wow, I think I found my calling, or it found me, whichever the case may be. But it's been that ever since. And it's grown and evolved over the years, but that is the foundation of it. That's where it started.
I actually work with people one-on-one. I started with like kind of my friends who needed help. And then, now I do it for free online, and I'm getting a degree in it as well. So I'm trying to have those tools. But anyways, I did notice what you were saying in a lot of those conversations. A lot of the people I helped early days were folks working in really high income fields. And these folks have really high net worths, yet they were feeling behind and stressed, and their habits weren't changing. Not really. They, for the most part, some folks who were savers, they're still driving a beat up car and being savers even after, making a lot of money. And then as I started working with others who were struggling more earlier in life, I saw a lot of the same kind of like hardwiring and habits and things. So I love the way that you tie into a thermostat. I think that's really interesting, and I do think you're onto something here. Um, so how when you were doing this, and you said it was starting to help change folks, and you were seeing that transformation. Well, can you talk a little bit through that? Like what does that process look like, and how did you see that change come out?
Yeah, the first thing is the distinction of how money flows is one of the most powerful things I think that gives people access to resetting their financial thermostat. So we all look at money as this thing we use, and oftentimes we put on it responsibilities that it can't possibly live up to. We expect it to provide us with things that it can't. And you said earlier, security. Well, people who make a lot of money oftentimes don't have a sense of security, but we think if I make a lot of money, I'll have security. Or if I make a lot of money, I'll be happy. None of those things are true. They're fantasies that we live inside of, or they're the carrot that keeps us on the hamster wheel. So money is a universal band of energy, and it flows just like any currency. It's a current, so it flows like a current, and like water, electricity, things like that. It flows in a distinct way in that it flows in a circle. So it flows to us, through us, and away from us, and then back around to us, through us, and away from us. Excuse me. And there's a reservoir on the side that we get to keep. So if you imagine this circle, and we intersect the circle at one point. So because it flows in this circle, blocks anywhere in that flow ultimately are blocks everywhere in that flow. And the first step to resetting our financial thermostat is to start to see, well, what are the blocks in the flow of money that I have? And some of them can look like blocks coming to us are, I hate the rich. I hate the wealthy. Money is the root of all evil. I hate my boss. Those kinds of things are blocks in the flow of money coming to us. And then going away from us, things like, I hate paying my taxes. I hate paying my fair share. I never want to spend money on anything. I always hold on to it and, just keep it for myself. I hoard it. That's going to block money going away from us and ultimately coming back around to us. And then, of course, that reservoir on the side, which we get to keep, which is all about the savings that we're creating, that can be, I'm not worth it. I'm not smart enough. I'm not worthy. All of those things. So we start to notice those blocks and then we clear those blocks out. And what happens is our ability to earn more, our ability to keep more, our sense of security, joy, love, and happiness, those emotions around money, they shift and become more positive.
I've seen these things that are amazing milestones that other people are envious of, right? But those individuals experiencing it don't really celebrate it, right? There's those blockers there, like I think you're describing, where it's like, oh wow, I made it big. I'm making a lot of money. I could afford to do this stuff, or maybe I hit my million mark or whatever, and there's a sense of, oh, I should be happier about this. Well, nothing's really changed though. Why don't I feel
Right.
happier about this? So I think there's something really, really very true about what you're saying, and everyone feels it. They just don't always know how to describe it, because if your thermostat's too low, no matter how much money you're making, you're only going to still be in a scarcity mindset, right? You're never
Correct.
really going. Nothing's really changed. So, like these questions that you posed earlier, I read another book that talked about money scripts and these kinds of prompts that you get when you about childhood and your past
Mm.
and your identity. Is that kind of how you help people identify where they are? Do you ask those kind of questions and then, oh, okay, your thermostat is at this setting?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think the easiest way for anyone, someone listening to this podcast or any one of my clients to determine what your financial thermostat setting is just look at life. How much are you able to earn? How much are you able to keep? And when you start talking or thinking about money, what are your thoughts, feelings, and emotions? Like that, boom, right there. It will, you'll hear it. That little voice will say something right in your, oh, be careful. It'll never happen for you. Oh, no, remember what happened last time you made a lot of money. All of those things are the the truth around our relationship to money, not what we say. Because lots of people will say, oh, I want to be wealthy and I'm just going to do every, and these Affirmations and manifestation as well. A lot of people really want to manifest, but what they don't notice are those negative mindset conversations, which poison the soil in which we're planting the seeds of our affirmations or manifestations. And so the first question I ask is, well, what's it like for you? And then they tell me, how long has it been like that? It's been like that forever. Great. Now we know what your financial thermostat setting is. And it doesn't have to be a specific number. It can be just an experience. I just can't land the job of my dreams. I just can't get beyond a certain income. I'm just never like your friend or your client. I'm now making $1 million a year, but I thought I'd be happy and I'm not. That comes from within. If we expect money to make us happy, then it won't make any difference how much money we make. We'll never be happy. We have to find that from within. And when we do, then we've got happiness long before we have the money. Then when the money shows up, it's not about, I got to get happy. It's about, what can I do to amplify this? And that's what money actually is an amplifier. It amplifies who we already are. So if we're already happy, the more money we make, the more money we have, the happier we're going to be. The sadder we are, the more money we make, the more sad we're going to be. It's just an amplifier of who we already are. And we can shift it at any moment. So it's not like we're stuck where we are. We can actually alter that, but it requires focus and attention.
Yeah, love that. And then I don't want to get into the resetting piece now, but
Hmm.
I do think that when you were talking about the things that people say versus maybe the actual truth of their behavior, I think that's
Yeah.
really important. Like some of
Yeah.
this takes honesty and self-awareness. And it did make me wonder a little bit as you were talking through that. It sounds like conversations like you're able to have with them can help get to the truth of it because you're able to prompt and talk about those experiences, but maybe even like a partner or other financial advisor or whoever
Hmm.
could probably help, get down to the real, crux of the issue and not just kind of the dialogue that is said, right? That might be
Yes.
hiding you and your behavior.
Yes. It really does require, Dan, what you're talking about is that desire for the truth. We live in a social media world where everyone wants to look like they're successful. Looking like you're wealthy is more important than actually having wealth. Going into debt so that you can have things that make you look like you're wealthy is more important than not having those things and actually creating and building wealth. That's the kind of, it's flipped on its head. And the moment we can make those hard choices and say, you know what? I'm not paying for dinner for everybody. I'm not even going to go out for dinner tonight because I haven't set that money aside. I am building wealth. And inside of whatever structure I've created, I go out once a week or maybe twice a month or 3 or 4 times a month. That's what I've set for me spending money on going out. And after that, no more because I'm committed to saving. I'm committed to investing and building the future that I want financially.
Like you said, this takes actual effort, right? Like this isn't a
Yeah.
freebie here. But if you did the identification, you know where you
Yep.
stand. You're like,
Yep.
okay, this setting is a problem. I'm gonna have to
Yep.
make a change here. You talked about a framework, like kind of these four keys. Like I think it was uncovering your beliefs, right? I think you have to go and look and think back, and you have to look at your kind of your old money stories and things like that,
Hmm.
and then building supportive habits, and then practicing gratitude, which that one really struck me when I was reading that one. I
Hmm.
thought that was really interesting. But anyways, you get down to like, hey, look, there's actions you're going to take here if you want to make
Correct.
behavioral change, like real lasting behavioral change, right? Things that
Yes.
stick. So when you're helping someone with this part, what are the big things that you're doing with kind of with these four keys, and how are you helping someone apply them in a way that's going to last?
Yeah, this is the crux of the entire key to success, as it were, that if we can identify, and oftentimes people can't identify it. They get stressed about it. Well, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. It's okay. You don't need to know what it is. You just need to know that there's an it there. This it is holding me back. This it is a block in my flow, right? And I need to clear it out. And there are four specific steps that you can take. These are distinct from the four keys to resetting your financial thermostat. Anyone can watch that on my website. There's a masterclass on it. But once you've done those four keys, the steps to actually clearing blocks in the flow of money. Number one, you have to identify that there is a block or what it specifically is. If you can, you can. If you can't, you can't. Just an it is there. Number two, you have to let it go. This is the hardest part for a lot of people because it's become part of who they are, their identity. They're like, oh, but this is who I, and they just can't articulate the words, and you have to say it out loud. You have to say, I release this, whatever it is. Let's do money as the root of all evil. I release money as the root of all evil. It's been with me forever. I let it go. I surrender it to the universe, to God, to the trees, to whatever. You're letting it go to something outside of you. You're releasing it. You keep saying it until you feel that sense of, okay, I felt it move away a little bit. I felt a little bit of relief. Then you move to step three, and that is in this new kind of space. You've let this old conversation go. What relationship do you want to have with money? And it's not an intellectual conversation. It's a heartfelt conversation. So it isn't like, okay, now I got to think about, no, you don't. In that space where it's just gone away, if you're really heart-centered, if you're really quiet, something will show up for you. For me, in the moment that I did this the first time, it was money flows to me easily and abundantly every single day. It just was there. And it's short, concise. Sometimes it's one word. I've had clients say, I'm free. And I can see their whole world shift in a nanosecond. Now, that's the third step. And you want to write this down. You want to have it on your nightstand. You want to have it on your mirror in the bathroom, on your computer screen. And you want to wake up, say it, feel it, experience it, and then go to bed at night into your dream world, saying it, feeling it, experiencing it, not just talking about it, right? And then the fourth step is go out and look for it being manifest in your life. And everywhere you see it, express gratitude. Live in that state of gratitude. You know, I'll have people that create this, like, okay, money comes to me all the time, every day. And I said, great, where was money today? Well, I didn't see any. Well, you didn't see any money? Well, I saw a penny on the ground, but I'm not picking that up. Great. In that instant, you went from, I want more money to, I don't want more money. Because in a universal conversation, more is a penny. Penny is more. So if we kill off that vibrational frequency of I want more money by saying no, I don't want that penny, then we're now living in a different state. So it's those four steps, and that old conversation will never go away. It will always be there, but it'll get quieter and quieter and quieter and less frequent over time. And this new conversation will become the dominant or predominant conversation, and that will start to drive us. So every time you find one of those blocks in the flow, you're going to do these four steps around that block in the flow. You've cleared the block. Now you've created a new person, a new way of relating to your life as it relates to money. Hey, this is good for love as well. Love flows in a circle. We can block that too. Success, confidence, all of these things. Where are we blocking it? So this applies to any area in our life, but this is the kind of the foundational format and formula that you can use.
This sounds transformational.
Yes.
It would take time and discipline, right, to make it the new default.
Correct. We can transform ourselves in an instant. We can literally transform our thoughts, our feelings, and our emotions in an instant. To maintain that requires that dedicated action, that dedicated, as the Buddha would say, our thoughts, our language, and our actions. We are the thoughts that we think, the words that we speak, and the actions that we take. So it isn't just about thinking and focusing on specific thoughts. It's about what words do you speak, and then what actions do you take. We see this all the time where people say, oh, I'm a good person, but then you look at their actions and that's inconsistent with who they really are or who they say they are. And then the opposite is true as well. And say, oh, I'm a bad person. Like, all I see you do is help people. You've got a disconnect there. So those three things need to be in line with what it is you've just created. And it just requires that focus. And after a period of time, you will literally see, oh my gosh, that is my life. That is who I am.
You might have already answered this, but I want to see if there's maybe even a little bit more here that might help folks, because this audience, they're planners. They're listening to me. My book was all about how to make that plan that actually works for you, that'll get you to the finish line. And part of doing that is looking ahead and looking for those things that are going to be issues for you so that you can mitigate them, have your plan B ready, have your mitigation, whatever it is, so you can stay on track, because life will test you. It will test you hard.
Right.
And you need some type of safeguards or rails in place, because in the moment, it doesn't have to destroy your plan, right? You just adapt. And I feel like, avoiding a backslide when it comes to our own behaviors is really important, because maybe you could be going through all this and it's going really well for a while, but then maybe there's a trigger or something in your life that really pushes you back to an old behavior. So is there anything else that, people should keep in mind to prevent that backsliding? Because, going backwards, that's going to feel like you lost all that effort and maybe then, you never really completed the journey. So why'd you take it?
Right. Yeah, this is, I think, one of the biggest pitfalls that people run into, and they lose sight of the fact that they've taken so much ground. So, as you're, let's use traversing a mountain, climbing up a mountain, let's use that as an example. We're at the base of the mountain when we have this first conversation and we say, okay, this is who I am. We do those 4 steps, we start to clear those blocks, and we start to move up the mountain. And we're human. These old conversations will come back. We will make mistakes. We will do things that are, as you said, triggers from our past. That doesn't mean we're back down at the bottom of the mountain. It means we're dealing with that trigger wherever we are in our journey up that mountain. And that's what's important to remember. I am no longer, look, I was a jerk many years ago before I started any kind of transformational work. And if I have something that I do where I forget for a moment who I am or I'm triggered by something, the faster I can catch it, the better. But if I catch it, I catch it after I've said something I shouldn't have said or done something I shouldn't have done. It doesn't mean I destroy and kill off 25, 30 years of work. No, I made a mistake. I go clean it up and then I get busy. I get back to work again, doing exactly what I do. That single action does not define who we are or who I am. It's our culmination of actions that define who we are.
Well, it's nice to talk to another reformed jerk.
And I was being kind with the word jerk.
It is a journey, but yeah, I absolutely know what you're saying there. I think that's really powerful. So I do like the idea of celebration because I do think that's missed a lot. I'll just thinking back to my career for a moment in the working world, always going so fast. And it's like as soon as you're done with something, no matter how big it is, there's no moment for celebration. It's always the next thing. So it's like the kind of that rat race, right? And because you're not ever celebrating anything, it saps out your morale over time, and you get to a point where you're just like you look back, you're like, what was the point of all that? It was not as meaningful. So I do like that a lot
Yeah.
because if you're celebrating on your journey, you're less likely to relapse completely when you're tested like that. So that's a big one.
Yes. And remember that we're on the journey a lot longer than we're at the destination. Because as you said, we're always creating new goals. So we set a mountain peak, we're going to get to the top of that. Then what's next? Well, what's the next big mountain that we're going to do? We're at the top of the mountain for a very small amount of time celebrating. But along the way, are you celebrating your journey? This is where a lot of people fall down. They think, okay, I'm going to be able to relax and enjoy my life when I retire. So they spend their entire life saving and scrimping and suffering and never really enjoying anything, hoping that when they get to retirement, they'll have enough money. Then what happens when they retire? I'm not working anymore. I'm not making any more money. So I can't spend. So they spend their whole life not enjoying life, not experiencing what life is all about. And that's the important thing is enjoy the journey every single moment, even the things that aren't what we want them to be. When it happens, have it be inside of my life goes the way I say my life goes. And this thing that I would rather have not have happened is happening inside of my context of my life goes the way I say it goes. And if I could add one more thing to this, if we have 1 second, please, Dan, is we get what we focus on. So a lot of people like to plan for not inevitable, but for the unexpected. And some people are hyper focused on the unexpected. Look, I have insurance on my home. I have insurance on my car. I have life insurance. I have health insurance. But I don't think about it. I never think about it. If I think about it all day long, that's when you start getting injured. That's when you start needing the insurance. But if you let go of that, no, you've got those safety features in place. Now I can just go and enjoy life. Rather than focusing on the negative, always focus on the positive.
Yeah, like a self-fulfilling prophecy hitting
Yes,
you. Because I have seen
exactly.
that. It was like you over-index on something to a degree where you almost manifested it.
Well, you absolutely manifest it because it's the thing, and people don't realize that. They go, I'm trying to, they'll say it in a negative. I don't want stress in my life. I don't want stress in my life. Or I'm focused on getting rid of debt. This happens all the time. I speak to people about it. I'm like, okay, great. How long have you been doing that? Well, 3 years. And how's your debt going? I have more debt now than I've ever had. That's why, because your focus is no debt. Focus on building wealth. The debt will disappear inside of that. Focus on being free. The stress will disappear inside of that. So never focus on getting rid of a negative. Focus on what the positive is that you want. And that's what will end up showing up.
This is fantastic. I really love how you wrap all these things together because I can tell you what I see happen when you don't deal with these things is the retirement one was very powerful to me because I did that transition. I've seen people fail at that transition where they go either into an early retirement or even a standard retirement and they feel that, oh, I'm miserable because I can't enjoy what I built. I'm not allowing myself. And then the best I can do to help them is, well, if you can't do the hard work to go back and figure out how to change your mindset. The best we can do are these little hacks, like give yourself a spending budget that you're guilt free to spend on. But those are hacks, and that's not
Right,
real. You're talking about the real
right.
stuff here, and I think that's great. So talk about these transformations though. Like if you did this work, what does life look like? Is it change in stress? Is it relationships? Just more spending? Like what have you seen?
Yeah, it is always going to be unique to each individual person because what we're looking for is unique. But I think the common thread is people discover who they truly are and what they truly want in life. They let go of trying to get money for some reason that it cannot provide, and they get freed up from that. And a great example is I've worked with people who have very very little money, and they're so fulfilled and they're so happy. There's nothing missing in their life. They know exactly what it is they want in their life and they have it. They pull it towards them. And the money is just a byproduct of that. The money becomes exactly what it is, designed to be able to provide us with specific things that it can provide us. And they understand that. And I've worked with people who have billions, literally billions of dollars on the Forbes list, and they are in the exact opposite experience. There's never enough money. I heard those words come out of the mouth of one of them. There's just never enough money. Every single event, every single thing that they do, vacations, everything, they're a nightmare. Nothing's ever right. There's constantly complaints. So you look at those two things and you say, okay, so it's not the money because one has more money than most of us will ever be able to dream of, and the other one has very little. So we start to discover what's truly important in our lives, whatever that is for you, because it's, again, individual. I don't have any judgment of what it is for you. You know, for some people, it's just giving, 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 giving. If that really brings your sense of self to the fore, great, do that. If it's not, do something else. But I think people discover who they truly are. And that's why I say that our relationship with money is a reflection of our relationship with ourselves and the world around us. And the more we get clear about what we want money for, the more we get clear about who we are in the world and how to find our own joy and happiness and fulfillment, that's when we discover that relationship and life becomes better. You know, and a specific example, I was working with someone who's an attorney from California, one of the top appellate attorneys that actually written briefs for the Supreme Court, an amazing person. And they would pull up to their car to the house every day, grab the mail, throw all the bills in the back seat, and the rest go into the house and forget about the bills. And they were paying overdraft charges and late fees, and just it was a disaster. And this was somebody who was very successful, made a lot of money. And in the course of working with them, they were able to get a handle on that. They were able to clear that block that had them not deal with money. They were getting to the place where they could deal with money, and they were saving and they were enjoying life. And that was what it was all about, is just getting to that place of enjoying life.
So I want to make sure we have time for this last question, and
Sure.
I'm not sure if it's a difficult question. So I'm really curious to get your thoughts on this. But we know a lot of times we think of this money journey as a solo journey, but it's more than that, right? Because we might have a partner or children or trying to create generational wealth and other people's thermostats. You may have a general idea where it is, but is it possible to change someone else's thermostat? Because when all of this comes together, I mean, I just see it as risks, right? Like, and maybe
Right.
that's the wrong way to think about it, as my wife's spending is a risk to the plan. But sometimes, we're wired the way we are.
Yeah.
but is it possible to help someone change their thermostat, maybe if they don't want to?
Great question. This comes up a lot because we do have a lot of couples, they get married or they're in a relationship. And I think it's important to be in communication. We can't force someone else to change their thermostat any more than we can force someone else to change their personality or how they do things. They have to want to do that themselves. But I think the foundation of it is always being in communication. I want us to be successful. I want us to have a financial future that works for all of us, our whole family. And I do want to create generational wealth. Are you open to having a conversation of what that looks like? When we approach it from that perspective versus you're doing it wrong and I need you to do it the way I'm doing it. Now we've got shields up, we're at red alert and nobody's communicating. But if we approach it in that way and approach it slowly and gently, because money is a very challenging conversation for some people. If we approach it slowly, we approach it in a gentle way and in a way that we're both committed to moving to another level, we may never get to the same setting individually together, but we may create a third setting, which is us as a couple. And that's the distinction is we've got one financial thermostat setting for one, another for another, and then we've got a third for the couple. And then a family as well, because we do want to pass on generational wealth, generational money mindsets, and generational financial thermostats in the positive rather than in the negative.
Amazing. Love it so much. Thank you so much, Pericles. I think this was a powerful mess. A lot of honestly, a lot of wisdom, a lot of great stuff that you've shared. How can the audience connect with you and anything else to learn more about this subject?
Sure. They can go to my website, periclesrellas.com. And on that, at the very top is my 4 keys to resetting your financial thermostat masterclass. It's a free masterclass. Just click on the link, put in your name and email, and you'll get access to it right away. And that will give you all that you need and apply it with the 4 steps that I just gave everyone, and they can take it away from there.
Well, that's great. I love that you do that and you make it that easy for everyone. So, but thank you again. I imagine you went through this journey for yourself.
Of course, yes. I was a client as well as learning and creating all the distinctions as I went along the way, and it was an amazing journey. So as my clients were learning and growing, I was too.
That's great. Thank you. I can tell because we can teach best when we've gone through and done it ourselves at least once. So,
and it's an ongoing journey. It never ends for me. And those who are really interested in this will see that it never ends. It's always a growth experience.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much again for being on the show.
Thank you, Dan, for having me. It's been a pleasure.
The past few weeks have all been about the money mindset, how we think about money, how we feel about it, and how those feelings quietly shape every decision we make. We are hardwired to act a certain way, and that includes the limits we've unknowingly programmed into ourselves. Pericles' work reminded me that these limits aren't just habits, they're settings. Settings built from years of experiences, upbringing, emotions, and all the stories that we've absorbed. He calls it our financial thermostat. That thermostat determines our comfort zone with money. It's what makes us cling to scarcity while others lean into abundance. And just like the one in your home, when that thermostat is set too low or too high, it triggers automatic reactions, cutting off the flow when things feel too much, or turning up the heat when we sense a lack. It keeps us stuck in a repeating cycle. Money flows in a circle. It comes in, it goes out, and when we're blocked, emotionally or mentally, it can't move freely. We continue to do things that keep us in debt or from saving enough from our life goal. Pericles reminded us that those blocks aren't forever. They can be reset. To reset that thermostat, you first have to take stock of your life, honestly and without judgment. Just ask yourself, what's really going on here? What do I believe about money? What emotions rise up when I think about success or spending or even saving? And maybe, most importantly, is that story even true anymore? Because so often we cling to an old story that no longer serves us. We tell ourselves we're bad with money, or that we don't deserve abundance, or that financial independence is for somebody else. But those aren't facts, those are scripts, and scripts can be rewritten. Once you see the story clearly, the next step is to define what you want it to be. Replace the negative with something new and intentional. Write it down, literally. Just put pen to paper, and then remind yourself daily. And celebrate every small win, even if it's silly or too small to matter. because every small act of celebration teaches your brain that progress feels good, that you're allowed to grow. And over time, those new patterns become the default. That's how you raise the thermostat. Not overnight, but with consistent, conscious effort. But life, of course, doesn't stop testing us. Big events, job loss, health scares, market drops, these things, they all have a way of shaking us back to our old selves. And when that happens, it's easy to feel like we've lost all the progress that we've made, but we haven't. Regression is just a part of growth. It's a reminder, not a failure. Every goal we set creates a new version of ourselves, and yes, new challenges too. But if we focus on the positive gains, on who we've become instead of what we've lost, we'll keep moving forward. We'll start to see that our mindset isn't about removing every negative. It's about amplifying the positive. And that brings us to one of my favorite parts of this conversation that I had with Pericles. If we spend our whole lives in sacrifice, always putting off joy for someday later, then we really aren't living. Financial independence isn't about deprivation. It's about freedom. It's not about saying no forever. It's about choosing when to say yes and feeling good about it. So instead of viewing restraint as sacrifice, we can reframe it as alignment. We're not giving something up. We're choosing to put energy towards what matters most. And in that process, we celebrate both the journey and the destination. And when we do that, money stops being the main character. It becomes the byproduct, a reflection of the life we've designed and the person we've become. That's the shift Pericles is inviting us to make, from chasing money to understanding ourselves. And here's another truth he touched on. We might not be able to reset someone else's thermostat for them, but that doesn't mean we can't help them notice it. When we speak positively about money, when we share our stories openly with the people who matter to us the most, we start to break down the stigma. We create safety around the topic. We open the door for real conversations and the kind that we need to lead to growth. And that's how we help others make their own change. Because a healthier mindset isn't contagious in a bad way. It's contagious in the best way. When we model balance and positivity, we help others see that it's possible. So as you think about your own financial thermostat this week, take a moment to ask yourself, where is it set to right now? Is it holding you back? And what small step could you take today to nudge it towards the life you actually want? Start there. Just be honest. Write it down. Celebrate your progress, even if it's tiny, because every time you do, you're teaching yourself that you deserve growth, you deserve stability, and you deserve joy. And when that happens and money starts to flow differently, it follows your energy instead of controlling it. And that's when financial independence stops being a goal and starts becoming your reality. As always, I'd love to hear from you. What are you doing to reset your financial thermostat? Thanks for listening, and best of luck resetting your financial thermostat and escaping the clock. I'll have another episode for you the same time next week. Thanks for tuning in to this episode. Remember, while I'm not yet a financial planner, I am getting my degree in wealth management. You should take anything you've heard here as tips and advice to making your plan. To learn more, visit www.escapetheclock.com. There, you can find the book, resources, including the planner, and you can even schedule time with me. Please remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time.